YouTube is live. And Male Entrepreneur Podcast episode number 140. And we're live in 3, 2. All right. Welcome back to the Male Entrepreneur, the podcast for men who win with your host, Purdeep Sangha. Purdeep, how you doing today, man?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm doing phenomenal. It's an awesome day here. You and I just had actually a really cool conversation before we jumped on here. I'm happy. I'm doing good.
I'm doing good too, man. It's rare. We just spent like an hour just kind of talking about business and talking about other stuff as well. It's funny how much other stuff helps get you success and results in business, because it's one of those things where when I first started my business, I engulfed myself with every business book I could find, every business course I could find, every business thinker I could find. And as I've gone further and further down this journey, down this path, I'm starting to realize that a lot of the stuff isn't about business. A lot of the stuff is like, hey, have you worked on this thing on yourself? Hey, have you worked on this thing on how you deal with your relationships? Have you worked on this thing on how you communicate with your team? And it's not all just like it's just weird how much of being successful in business is actually about working on yourself and working on your relationships and has nothing to do with business on the surface.
Yeah, man. Um, I totally agree with you because it is business. I would say is even 90%. It is 90% you, man. And I say this to business owners all the time. You're your biggest asset, but you're also your biggest roadblock and your biggest challenge. Because if you take a look at it, the buck stops with the business owner. The buck stops with, if you're an executive or manager, whoever it is, it really stops with you, and it's ultimately your responsibility to get the results. But when we stop to think about that, and we actually say, yeah, the buck stops with me, then you realize, man, if I really want to get the results, then I got to work on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got to up my level of skills, my level of talent, my level of whatever it is, if the buck stops with me. And when people realize that, I think that's a key epiphany for a lot of people, because they're like, holy crap. The cool thing with that though, and this is why I love this space, man, Nathan, I'm just like you. I just, devour it. My wife asked me like, oh, like, are you having fun? Because I'll just sit there with a friggin' book and make notes. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm having the best time I can. In fact, I tell my kids, I'm like, okay, guys, it's reading time, right? It's family reading time. We all grab a book and stuff. And that's like one of the best moments for me, because we're all kind of, learning new things and we get to chat about it. But when you realize that you're your sticking point, that you're your biggest roadblock, but you're also your biggest asset, you're like, holy, you can invest as much as you can into yourself. The sky is a limit. It's not like you can be a superhuman being that just caps out at one level, right? There is no such thing. You can continue to grow infinitely. So that's the cool thing. I think the only finite thing that we have is our lifespan, right? Because we want to grow to a certain point and kind of push that ceiling. So it's like every minute counts from the perspective of learning and growing. Man,
Well,
that's a topic on its own.
right. And the weird thing is, so much of like developing into a good business, a good businessman, there's a lot of personal development there. I think that honestly, starting a business and managing a business is probably one of the best personal development things that you could do in life. But it's so weird that so many personal development gurus are kind of like, maybe they poo-poo on business, or maybe it's just their market wouldn't be receptive to the message. But I personally feel like the most breakthroughs that I've had in my life came as a result of trying to improve my business. Most of the personal development breakthroughs that I've had came because I was looking for a business development breakthrough. And I just personally, I think that everybody should be encouraged to at least start a side hustle, because you learn so much about yourself. You learn so much about how your interactions with the world work. And I'll just say this. Bella told me the other day that she wants to start her own sticker business. And it was probably it was the proudest moment in my life. I was just like, yes, this is going to be so good for her. And even if it fails, even if it flops, It's going to teach her so much about herself and uh, about life that most kids never even, most people, most grown adults never even get to experience.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Sticker business. I love that. That's kind of
Yeah.
cool, man. You should encourage her to do that. You could do the copy for it.
Well, I'm definitely going to be teaching her a lot. I try to teach her a lot of business lessons and life lessons anyways, but okay. So that out of the way, that's how we're ending this year. Most of her Christmas is going to be investments into the sticker business. Um, that's how we're finishing this year. You said that you wanted to talk about the importance of especially this year. How are we the listeners, the people that are engaging with you, how are we finishing this year?
Yeah, and before I jump into that, here's one thing. I was just actually going to show you as you were talking about that, about stickers. And if you're, check out YouTube for a minute if you want to see us live. I'm just holding up these stickers. Have you heard of Sticker Mule,
Yeah,
Nathan?
I love Sticker Mule.
Yeah, man, they are just phenomenal. I was just gonna say she should model that because other places have stickers like printing companies, but Sticker Mule is completely different. The way they've branded themselves, it's awesome. For those of you who are listening, if you want stickers for your business, check out Sticker Mule. It's pretty cool.
Or check out Bella.
Or check out Bella. Yeah, we're gonna have to come up with a cool name for hers, right?
Yeah, so let's jump into finishing strong.
Yeah, finishing strong. It's important because I think a lot of people have written off. Well, I know a lot of people had written off 2020 because of COVID, right? I had a lot of business owners say, "Hey, look, I know this year's write off." I'm like, "Come on, man! It's only a write off if you actually write it off." And when they got that turn point, actually, some of them actually made more money than they did in regular years because we got them to pivot. We actually got them to do things differently. We got them breaking through their biggest challenges. Like they had to think differently, and as a result, they actually made more money. Because if you think about what's holding us back is our current limitation based on what we talked about at the beginning of the show. It really comes down to you. But it's about finishing strong. If you want 2021 to be a really good year, then you got to finish strong now. You can't just say, "Hey, look, you know what? It was what it was. COVID hit, all this other crap, all these other excuses." Understandable. I understand where you might be coming from, but you can't allow yourself to stay with those excuses. You got to get past those because you want to come out starting 2021 with a bang, right? You want to keep that momentum. Again, this goes back to building habits. It comes back to mindset. It comes back to emotional mastery. Because when you get those, when you actually understand how that works, you're going to perform at a higher level. Let me just give you a practical example. My last set of the last exercise I do in my workouts is the hardest set that I do. I don't wuss out for that. As much as I want to give up and say, "Okay, I'm done," I don't. I push even harder. I push past the number of reps that I need to do. Why? Because that pushes my brain. That next time I'm going to start my workout the next day, I'm already at that high. So that's important for you to do in your business. Take a look at it from your employee perspective too, right? If you have employees, you don't want them to cruise through December. And the reason why I say this is because December is typically a slow year, like slow time anyways, right? People are in Christmas season, holiday mode with their families. That's great. I'm not taking anything away from that because I enjoy that myself. It's downtime. You just want to make sure that your November coming up, your December coming up aren't just you basically writing things off. So go in and finish this year off strong, stronger than you ever have, because again, you want to start 2021 properly because a lot of people aren't. I can tell.
I
Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like it's like one of those days where you wake up in the morning and you're feeling kind of uh you're lagging and you don't have energy and you're like, well, I'll stop at Starbucks and I'll get a creamy frappuccino caramel venti drink or whatever. And then at the end of the day, you eat dinner and the waiter comes out and he's like, well, would you guys like dessert? And you think to yourself, well, I already drank a super sugary drink at the beginning of the day. I might as well just have dessert since I've already ruined the day. I'm just going to write the day off. And tomorrow I'll start with a healthy green shake in the morning. I can go ahead and just write today off. That's kind of how I feel. A lot of people are thinking about 2020 in general, but yeah, if you eat that dessert at night, then the sugar is going to keep you up all night, and you're going to probably have trouble sleeping. You might have some weird dreams. You're going to toss and turn. And then tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're not going to have energy and you're going to need another cup of Starbucks on the way to work.
Oh man, you're so right on that one. I just laugh as you're saying that because we just had Halloween, right? Not too long ago. And my kids went over to their grandma's house and they got a crap load of candy there, but they didn't bring it home. I'm like, how come you didn't bring it home? They're like, because we knew you were going to eat it. Because they know that when I open up one chocolate, it's gone. If I can stay away from that first chocolate, I'm good. But as soon as I open up that first one, man, it's done. It's like, give me everything. I inhale it. But you're absolutely right. It's just the bad patterns become, bigger and bigger. It's like a snowball effect. It just keeps growing and growing. But from a serious, on a serious note, again, business is a competition. It's a game. And your competitors, a lot of them, I can say this, this is a generalization, right? But a lot of the businesses that I'm seeing, I would say anywhere from 70 to 80% are really playing it. A lot of them have already written things off and they're unsure of what they're going to do in 2021. And just as a direct result of them being unsure, you have a competitive advantage because they don't know what they're doing yet. If you know what you're going to do, even if it's not the right path, at least you're going to be able to course correct faster than them, because they're not going to be able to do anything at all. Take a look at what's happening out there. So many people stalled. Their businesses are stalled. People are closing down. It's a huge opportunity. Take advantage of that. Your competition is sleeping, right? You don't want to be sleeping too.
So I hear a lot of the business gurus and the self-help gurus out there. They talk about a morning plan. They talk about, this is my morning routine. Every day when I wake up, I do this, I do this, I do this, and you should try doing something like this as well. But I don't ever hear them talk about an evening plan. I don't ever hear them talk about this is what I do as I'm preparing for the next day. This is what I do at night. A lot of people that have that mindset of, I've already written off 2020. As soon as January hits, I'll start my plan. As soon as morning hits, I'll start my morning routine. What are your thoughts on having an evening plan? And what are your thoughts on waiting until January to start planning the next year?
Yeah, let me start with the second question first. Don't wait until January. You're going to screw yourself over. Trust me, there's so many businesses. Man, some of my clients, and they're going to hate me if they're listening to this podcast right now, but that's what they do. And I'm like, come on, can we just not? And every year I force them to, at least by November, you got to start planning for January, right? Don't wait till December comes around. Do it in November because it's typically slowing down a little bit depending on your industry. And December just becomes a slowdown because of the holiday season. Everybody wants to friggin' drink eggnog and hang out with family, which again is a great thing. But you're not going to be in the mood, and you're just gonna procrastinate. So do it in December. Make it a habit. Don't wait. The first one is evening plan, or your first question, evening plan. Yeah, I like having an evening plan myself. My typical evening plan is, I would say it's pretty boring. I sit there, take a shower. We have dinner as a family. Then we sit down, we watch some TV. Then I'll read, and then I'll meditate before I go to bed. That's one thing because I like to be in a proper mindset before I go into bed. And plus, for those of you guys out there who meditate, or maybe you don't meditate, you understand that right before you go to bed, we talk about creative genius, which I talk about in my new book, The Complete Man. How do you tap into that? Is those states that you're in, the alpha and theta brainwave states that you're in before you actually get into sleep. And the best time to actually have creative ideas is actually before you go to bed, because you're starting to drift apart, but you're somewhat conscious and you can actually start thinking through problems. So I like to do that actually. Nathan, this is kind of a geeky thing. And I did this as a kid. And this is actually one of the things that I kept throughout my life is I used to stay awake for about an hour to an hour and a half before I would, like, in my bed in a half dream sleepy state and actually dream through certain things. And I still try to do that as much as possible, but I find that I fall asleep a lot faster now. So I sometimes I could try to do that and I'm out in like 2 minutes. So it doesn't always work. But for those of you guys out there, it's good to be the guys out there. It's good to be a kid, right? Be a kid again.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. One last question that I have, because you deal with a lot of business owners, you mentioned that you deal with some that do it this way and some that don't. taking the, I don't want to say the high road, maybe the harder road of not writing the year off and starting to plan right now, how is that going to set you apart? What if you had to make a closing argument for why you should do this when your competition's not doing this? How is it going to set you apart? What is it going to make different in your business if you start planning right now versus the competition out there that doesn't start planning until January?
Well, first of all, is if you take a look at, I mean, I'm going to relate it back to athletes because we can relate to that. If you take a look at Michael Phelps, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, or whatever, what is the one advantage that they had over a lot of the other players? Is that they took every moment that they could to better develop themselves. That was a big difference between them and every other player. They really spent every minute, every opportunity they could, and that allowed them to be the best. That allowed them to be the elite of the elite. So it's what we call the compound effect, right? So the more time you spend now in a clearer state, because think about this, in January, again, we don't know what's going to happen, but you're in a clear state right now in terms of you have time. You have 2 months to actually come up with a plan. Whereas if you start doing it in January, you're going to be rushed. You're going to feel like you're rushed, right? If you're 2 weeks into January and you still don't have a plan, you're going to feel like, oh, I got to get this done, and then you're going to start. You're going to overlook things that you should have seen before. So now you have a time span to create a better plan between now and January, and bounce that plan off of other people. Because what ends up happening is a lot of business owners or entrepreneurs, they don't I'm not going to say fact check, but what we call scenario plan, which means that coming up with a number of different scenarios for your plan to say, okay, best case scenario, what does it actually look like? And actually play out the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, what does that look like? Actually play it out properly. You can do a simulation. Then this is one of the exercises I take my clients through is simulation exercises. How are people going to respond? If you start doing that in November, man, imagine how fine in tune your team is going to be by the time January comes. Here's a practical example. When we're taking a look at the elections, we stayed away from that topic today, which was good. Otherwise, we would have, been going down a completely different rabbit hole. But one of the things that they talked about at the polls was that people were prepped for this months in advance because of COVID. They brought in teams months in advance to prep for the poll days so that they could get things figured out, get all, the kinks figured out. And some states did that, some states didn't. And the states that have done that are actually going to be better off at the end of the day. But if your team is prepped for January before January, they're going to be better off. Here's the other thing. If you have a team, you want your team to go into this strong as well. Again, every person that you add to your team is a multiple effect. It's not just you waiting for January to happen, it's your team as well. So get them up to speed now, get them revved up for January, and you're going to get that many or that much better results.
Yeah, I think that going back to the analogy of, well, I had a super sweet coffee this morning. I'm going to have a sweet dessert tonight. I'll probably end up being groggy in the morning and need another super sweet coffee. Uh, when you're planning ahead, when you're knowing what to expect, you're not just in reaction mode. A lot of
Mhm.
times we wake up and the world hits us and we react to the world. I woke up and I'm groggy. So what do I do to react? I need to go get a coffee. Versus I'm planning. I have an idea of what I'm going to do in the morning. I know what I'm going to do as we lead into 2021. Um, you can either be a victim of the world or you can make the world a victim of your own plans, I guess, to take it to the extreme. And it's a choice. And it's easier to choose to just react to what's happening. But that's not most of us that got to where we're at, if we're being honest, that's not the way that gets us to where we're wanting to go.
No. And that's a great, I think you summed it up a lot simpler than how I put it is be proactive. Don't be reactive because the reactive guys in business are the ones that kind of get left behind. If you're proactive, you're going to be ahead.
Nice. Okay, you before we're out of here, you mentioned a new book, The Complete Man, that you're working on, and I happen to know that you have a way for people to get on a waiting list or a list to get an advanced copy before it's even released to the public. Do you want to share how people can do that before we're out?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get like an official pre-release copy before it's released, text free, so FREE to 888-210-5566, and we'll notify you when your copy is ready. So that's free at 888-210-5566.
Awesome. Pradeep, thank you so much, man. And I'm looking forward to 2021. And I'm looking forward to continuing our business relationship as well. And for the people that want to check out more episodes of this podcast, where's the two best places to go?
Yeah, check out mailpodcast.com, or you can check out our two lovely faces. I say that very jokingly, at YouTubeformen.com if you want to see us live or in person. Those are the two spots.
All right, man. Until next time, we will catch you later.
Take care, man.
I have a very lovely face. All right.
We lovely.
Please stop the. Oh, that got caught on YouTube. Dang it.
Oh, awesome. Sweet.